Hi there, everybody. My name is Jeremy Siskind. I'm the author of Jazz Piano Fundamentals, as well as Playing Solo Jazz Piano, as well as Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 3, and lastly, I can hardly hold all these books in my arm, Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 2. And sometimes I come on this channel and I tell you about things that I know for sure. I know what notes are in an A7. Other times I'm working on formulating ideas and brainstorming and thinking about theory, and this is one of those second categories where I don't claim to have total command over what I'm about to tell you, but maybe it'll strike something in you and feel useful. And what we're talking about today is going to be harmonizing a major scale using closed position voicings or using drop 2 voicings or some other variation of that. And I've been thinking about that there's more ways than we necessarily talk about, and I want to brainstorm one reason or one way to come up with a few different variations, one of the reasons why that works. So let's just we'll start here. And I'm gonna focus on the first 5 notes of a major scale because it gets a little dicier after that. So there's this famous bebop scale, formation that's associated with David Baker and Barry Harris, where we alternate between major 6th and diminished 7th chords, and this is great. I don't want to cancel this in any way. One of the reasons that is great, well, let me play it for you here. I mean, who doesn't love that sound? Is it a little bit on the old-fashioned side? Sure. But one of the reasons why it's great is that we're never repeating any notes between chords. We always have a new note every single chord. And it's very satisfying. So you have a C6, you have we could call it a B diminished 7th or a D diminished 7th, a C6, B diminished 7th, B6. I said that all wrong. Alternating between C6 and B diminished 7th. So again, let me emphasize, I am not advocating for throwing that out or using that less. But I have been just thinking that there are a lot of other options that sometimes sound great. So my hypothesis here is that we're going to always harmonize these in-between notes, D and F, with some version of the 3, 5, 7, 9 of G7, the 5 chord. Now, if we look back here, we could think of these as this diminished chord, but I think it's also very healthy to think of these as the 3, 5, 7, and flat 9 of G7, right? B is the 3, D is the 5, F is the 7, A flat would be the flat 9. But sometimes it feels and sounds nice to use the natural 9, in which case one interpretation would be that the chord here is B half diminished. I'm not really going to be changing the C6 part, by the way. If you're waiting for that, you got to go to somebody's channel who's smarter than me to figure that out. But this actually also has the same really nice principle of alternation. C6, B half diminished, there's no notes repeated in between unless I'm missing something. Oh, I am. There's an A natural. Okay, I take it back. I told you that not all my ideas are fully formulated. So this has not quite as much suspense in it as the traditional bebop scale formulation, but it sounds good. Right, it's a little bit smoother and it's a little bit less quote unquote old-fashioned. Oh God, I'm already anticipating that big Barry Harris fans are just gonna hate me. And then, okay, so we've been talking about using the 3, 5, 7, 9 of G7, but we could make it a G7 sus, in which case it would be the 4, 5, 7, and 9. And in this case, what we're going to end up with is basically like a D minor 7 or an F6 is how it's going to look. So here's your C6s. And then here's your G7 sus. Sounds like this. So it doesn't have that great alternation, again, between totally different notes. In this case, 2 notes are actually repeating each time, but I think it sounds quite nice. A little bit less tension, a little bit less suspense than the other way of doing it. And then finally, I think this is my last idea here. We could use a G7 sus flat 9. So we'd have the 4, the 5, the 7, and then the flat 9. So that's going to make a chord that's going to look like D half diminished, or like F minor 6 if you prefer. So we're bringing back a little bit of the suspense with the A flat, but it should still be kind of nice and smooth. This makes me think of the bridge of Blue Skies. Right, I'm just using I'm using either C6 or this, however you want to think of it. I can give you 3 different ways: G sus flat 9, F minor 6, or D half diminished. Look at it with the notes. And then here I have to switch. All right, so this is my thesis that, as we're harmonizing the non-chord tones of the scale, we can use different versions of G7. We can use a natural G7, just the regular old 3, 5, 7, 9. Sounds like this. Sorry. We can use the 3, 5, 7 flat 9, which is the traditional bebop scale exercise harmonization. Sounds great. We could use G sus. Or we can use G sus flat 9, which is what we just did. Right? And for some of you, it might be easier to think about the really literal chords that we're playing here. So in this case, it would be a diminished 7th, 7 diminished 7th in the key. For the second one, it would be 7 half diminished 7th. The third one, it would be, so either 5 sus, but I like to think of it as, 4 with a 6th. So F6. Or D minor 7, or 2. And by the way, we could think of this top one as the 2, 6, as D minor 6 as well. And then this bottom one, I like to think of as the minor 4, F minor 6, or the 2 half diminished. So this ended up looking like a total mess. You can see why I kind of like this framing of thinking about them as different versions of the 5 chord. All right, well, let me know what you think. Give me your feedback. This is all in a very experimental stage, so your feedback might help guide me to one direction or the other. If you're interested in closed position and drop 2 voicings, those are covered in Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 2. I got you covered, guys. Don't even worry about it. And if you watched this long, why don't you comment something with the word experiment, because we're talking experimentation. Bye, thanks for watching.